Movie notes on Cinderella, 2021 film, 11 December 2024 viewing. Today is Wednesday, 11 December 2024. I'm Tanis Coralee Leonhardi, she, her, hers of Seattle. And I watched this today somewhere in the world, which also means that somewhere else in the world it probably was not today. Like Australia or something like that. Okay. Yeah, they're like a day ahead and 5 hours behind, so it's like sometimes it's just like it's lost cause, you know. Okay, so anyway, this is for this viewing, this is the description I came up with for this movie. It's a fiction film about a young adult stepdaughter who routinely performs everyday housekeeping tasks and is initially approached by a suitor named Thomas, then falls in love with a prince and is pursued by the prince. Yes. So it's like, I want to like think about, so if she lives in a house, so she's the daughter of her dad, and her dad remarries, and so she has a stepmother and stepsisters, which means if you take the perspective of the stepmother, then Cinderella is a stepdaughter. So it's like, you know, since the step dynamic is really like a prominent role of Cinderella and kind of always some of the stories, step, you know, whatever, then she's a stepdaughter. Let's treat it with true equality. So she's a stepdaughter. Yes, so Camila Cabello was cast as the lead as a reminder that by ancestral origins, she's 100% white, including Spanish ancestry. I did not necessarily appreciate so much that she is more white than me before. There you go. And this is one where it's like, got me thinking about, so Scar Baby the Gray Squirrel put out there that perhaps the female hypothesis that perhaps the female version of an erection is showing cleavage. So is the female version of an erection for a woman to show cleavage? The squirrels say yes, though they want to clarify that squirrels are the wild animals, not humans. Though, to be fair, women do get pink and inflamed when aroused like men do. Thermal expansion applies to both men and women. So, if it's true that cleavage, however, corresponds to an erection, at least like publicly, like, you know, like there's some terminology that's used for male stuff that's like, I would say the male terminology that's used and propagated around an erection is probably about as common as like booby terminology. Most people don't actually refer to like a woman getting inflamed and pink and stuff like that. So I'm like, I think the proper like social equivalency there would be like a male erection and female showing cleavage. Especially like for middle school terminologies, if that makes any sense. So if this is true, the erection and cleavage, or cleavage showing, right? Not having cleavage, but showing cleavage. Distinction there. Then in current times, women are way hornier publicly. Not that that's always been the case. Including the Cinderella in this movie. But does this count? Right? Does this dress, it's like, what would then constitute actually showing cleavage? Right? This is not showing cleavage. And that's something that, like, when I was in school, there were dress codes and stuff like that. So, there was, like, at what point would showing cleavage actually come into play for that? Like, does this count? I would go with yes, especially, it depends, and especially if it, like, pushes cleavage up, kind of thing. I would like to really highlight it or magnify it. These kind of dresses are kind of done for that purpose. So yes, if a yes to the hypothesis, then yes to that as well. Okay. One for this, I've been watching some movies where the humor is not my taste, and so I've been like, so it's not necessarily the most enjoyable viewing experience for me, but I'm like, what kind of humor is that? Is that high humor? Is it like humor, like people smoke pot and it's like the kind of thing they find funny when they're high, but not necessarily the rest of the time? So that, like, it's my best guess. And there's been a number of movies I've watched that are like that, where I'm like, is this like if a person is in a certain like under the influence state, this is funny. So that was my, that's literally the note, is the humor in this movie high humor. Okay. And then this is kind of so when I was growing up, I was born approximately 1993, we had a cartoon Cinderella, and it includes musical numbers and more modern music, and kind of rejuvenates the older tale in that way. I was like, I've seen some stuff recently about like shopping malls being have already been converted into, what was it, dormitories or something. I was like, what's something that could like be made to incorporate new things while still kind of preserving the initial purpose? And I was like, how about prisons of the future? So shopping malls get converted to prisons, and universities with a history of abusing Native Americans, any portion, such as me, get converted to prisons. Berkeley becomes the new San Quentin prison. So, because they already have the buildings, and like some shopping malls, and like, so shopping malls have already been converted into, what is it, dormitories? And like, I've seen some of the pictures, and I'm like, that looks like Alcatraz. Very close to, or it could be like the setup. It's like, yeah, that could be a cell block. Just add some bars, you know, like, and a few security guards. So it's kind of one where it's just like, yeah, there's one that's, so they are not far off now for their shopping mall one. And then the professor at the University of California, Berkeley, who wrote the letter trying to kick me out, wanted graduate student offices to be converted into bedrooms. For real. So not far off there either. It was one that I was like, I had not encountered that like universities should be providing their professors sleeping spaces. University of California, Berkeley was the first place I encountered that for, and I was just like, you know, if they're going to do that, might lose some of their student body, in which case, why not just make it a prison, right? Most of this serves, especially if there was like an uptick in criminals, like who needed space in prison. Right. There's shared spaces so they could go out on the main quad for their exercise hour. Like there's, it's not like a full modernization, because the structure, including like actual buildings, is already pretty close. Kind of like the story gets adapted, but it's like still the same story kind of thing. So there we go. That's what I got. This is my movie notes for this viewing anyway. This is my movie notes on Cinderella 2021 film, 11 December 2024 viewing.